Welcome back to IGN Live at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. Easily one of the most anticipated new shows coming to Netflix is The Witcher, a live-action adaptation of the best-selling fantasy series by Andrzej Sapkowski, which also inspired a couple little video games you might have heard of. Joining me now, please welcome the stars of the show, Henry Cavill, Freya Allan, and Anya Chalotra, and showrunner Lauren Schmidt Hissrich. Thank you guys so much for coming by.
Thank you.
So we just got our first look at the trailer. It looks incredible. It looks like The Witcher. You guys are clearly, it looks like The Witcher.
Good.
That's a good thing. Good start.
A very good start.
Yeah.
And you guys are clearly you're drawing from the books. I think that's something that needs to be clarified. This is the same universe as people who've played the games might have seen, but there are this is sort of unfamiliar territory on a screen. Lauren, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, we're all big fans of the books. We're all big fans of the video games as well, but this is solely based on the books, and that's really where we drew our inspiration from, starting with the short stories.
Yeah, we know fantasy, especially with Game of Thrones now has become mainstream, but so people are finding it more accessible. But is there like a shorthand way that you use to communicate fantasy elements to an audience that may have never watched fantasy before?
I don't know about a shorthand. I mean, what's funny is I think the best way to deal with fantasy is to drop people right in and expect them to pick it up and learn it. We expect our audience to be smart and want to be there. In the writer's room, we're constantly laughing because these phrases start to come, roll off your tongue. And you'll be talking about, well, the trial of the grasses. And you're like, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. But we know that our audience is going to fall in love with it and really jump in with us, feet first.
I think even The Witcher does a good job of kind of taking familiar fantasy tropes that might have been, sort of like, D&D themes that we're sort of familiar with and kind of turning them on their ass. At the tail end of the trailer, Henry, you've got stuff coming out of your eyes. Was that the results of taking a decoction, perchance?
Absolutely, yes.
Which decoction?
That is, I'm not going to reveal anything yet about that because there's too many parallels drawn with other products as well, which we are not drawing parallels to. But yes.
It's just the use of magic. We see some really cool people using magical powers in the trailers. Jennifer, you're going through some kind of transformation, or sorry, Anya, going through a transformation, your character. And then we see Henry, it's like you're getting ready to use a sign there as you're in combat. Can you talk about how magic is portrayed in this series?
Yeah, this world is full of magic, and it was amazing to get the chance to not only go on this huge arc as a character and as an actor and have that challenge, but to also, on set be really excited and with all the magical elements and have to have fun doing those as well.
The thing with magic as well, it's one of those things which we're using as a force which is drawn from. You draw from chaos, and that is explained in Yennefer's storyline especially, and it manifests in different ways, and you will see it as the audience how it manifests, and some familiar things which players of the game and readers of the books will understand.
How do you make these characters your own when there's so much sort of lore to pull from, and there's always going to be that guy in the comments who's like, things are different.
No, we don't have any of this.
He's watching this now.
We have none of those.
And he's typing.
I mean, there's always going to be someone or someone's who will have a different idea. That's the beauty of adapting a book, especially when adapting books. Everyone has their own mental imagery of what a character looks like or how they behave or what they sound like. And it's about just going all in and making it what you think it is. And it's not necessarily conforming to what every single person says on the internet, because then you'll lose. Because everyone says something different, and it's different for everyone. You just provide what your insight to the character is and who you believe they are, and you go from there.
Freya, I'm curious to know, your character in the trailer, Ciri, it's like to be a child of destiny. There's some prophecies being told to you, go find Geralt of Rivia. You look like you're in somewhere with a magical tree. Can you talk about, like your character's arc and what's going on with Ciri when we see her in season 1?
Yes, so she starts off and she's had an incredibly sheltered upbringing, and so she's very naive to what the real world is, and she's used to always having people around her to protect her, and then suddenly she's thrown into this brutal world and environment, and she has to learn how to survive and to adapt and empathize with people.
So one thing I'm very excited about is the monsters. We got a couple glimpses of them in the trailer. Obviously, I know the humans are the real monsters, and that's something you guys are probably going to explore. How do you find the balance between sort of the big overarching political themes of the humans and the elves and all that, but also the kind of monster of the week duties of a Witcher who is, let's be real, kind of a magical animal control specialist?
I mean, you just basically the themes of the show are very, and the books, they're very based in real world themes and how people feel about all these things, whether it be racism, social injustice, whether it be politics, and that's something which everyone can follow. And as soon as you throw a monster in there, it's okay as well, and pretty darn cool. So we've actually got kind of free reign to throw monsters in whenever we want, and it's like, well, yeah, it's The Witcher, because the whole world is based around the conjunction of the spheres and monsters existing. And yes, sometimes humans are the real monsters, but other times they're not. Other times it's monsters that are the real monsters.
And I was curious too, Henry, I know your background, you are a gamer, and the series, of course, is based on the books, but the games are also based off the books as well.
Yep.
And Lauren, for you too, it's like, how do you bring those all together and balance all that out? Because there's a large portion of the audience that has only played the games and not read the books, and kind of making it all feel at home.
For me, personally, it's like, it would be like playing another run of The Witcher 3, but with a completely different skin on. And that, I think, would be interesting, because I've played it through a number of times now, and it's like, okay, cool, I've done it, I've seen it, and I still get that same enjoyment out of playing it through, but what if I could play it slightly differently? Then, yeah, this is kind of what it is for me when you're doing the show. Yes, it's Geralt of Rivia, The Witcher, but he looks like me now. And for me, that's an interesting thing. It creates a freshness to it, because the themes are still very similar.
Will there be Gwent?
We can't talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the secret? You can't talk about Gwent yet?
It's one of the secrets.
Nice. Yeah, one thing, you guys know this, that the big thing of The Witcher is, there's the world is at stake, you got to go do the big thing, but also there are side quests. Will the show will it dawdle a little bit? Will we see some little side adventures here and there? Will it get off the big epic storyline to maybe have?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that part of any television show, of course, is those big epic journeys and everything that you see building over a season and hopefully an entire series. But you also have to dig into individual episodes and really love the stories that you're doing there. So all of our characters have sort of side journeys, and we wanted to take the space to actually get to know them as characters, and their relationships with other people and their relationships eventually with each other. That's just as important to us as some epic quest or killing monsters or anything like that. So we definitely left space for it.
Hey, Lauren, where do you come from? The books are huge. You have a lot going on. You have like this collection of 5 books that tells this big arc, and then you have the short stories like The Last Wish, a collection of short stories. What do you look for first? Do you start at the very beginning, like chronologically, or how does that work as a showrunner?
One of the first things that we did was basically tackle that question: is do we want to do the short stories or do we want to do the saga? I mean, hopefully we have the space and time to do it all. For me, you can't skip the short stories. It's absolutely where the world building takes place and the foundation of this world is built. But also, Freya is sitting here. Ciri is part of our series. So we also were talking about how to make sure that we bring her in early enough and have Ciri have a story of her own as well. So I think audiences are going to be pretty surprised with how we managed to wrap it all into one season of television.
Great. Well, I'm dying to find out more. Season 1 of The Witcher hits Netflix later this year, but right now we need to consume some decoctions and meditate as we prepare for battle with the rest of Comic-Con. IGN Live will be right back after this.